self-hosted because when we speak about the local LLM, we also can have an old PC which is staying in a corner of the room where it's just running in your LLM and you work with it with your laptop. It's also good kind of in the category of the local LLM because it's allowed you to work with your own setup. In general, my personal interest of it is because not as a hobbyist, but due to my professional area, because I'm a software architect already for 12 years. In general, I'm in commercial software engineering for 19 years. And last 12 years, I'm mostly concentrated on software architecture and building cross-international teams, and how to organize the, let's say, 24 development cycle, in general. So why? First thing, it's a disclaimer. Why I want to encourage people even to give any type of a question today. Like, don't try to shine like, oh, is it obvious? This type of answer, oh, is it obvious? Like, how do you don't know how to do that stuff? Please don't give this type of answer. They will not be appreciated today. So feel free to give any questions, even if you think it's stupid. Why I'm saying in this particular way, because in my many meetings with other people, even on a public, they say like, oh, it's so nice about AI, I know how to create a system, but after that, hey, but how to set up a ROM on my computer or something like this. So, don't be afraid. Many people, even now, they pretending as they know, but they actually don't. So why self-hosted in general? Because one of the biggest risks when we designing whatever software as an end product, the software is supposed to be self-sustainable. It's supposed to be not rely on third-party services, because if third-party services will be cut out, then your software is stop working. You can use it, for example, for extend some certain functionality, but it's supposed to never be a core function which is relying on third-party services. And that's why this is one of my motivations why I started to dig into let's say self-hosted interference, for example, for the local clouds, how many SMEs are having, like small data center in their whatever office, which is also can be represented as a local setup. So here is just a matter of scaling of what is local and what is edge. Other friction points which is starting to come out more frequently is like token count, rate limit, like version controlling, because we cannot control what model version is running in the cloud. They can swap it. Yesterday it was working fine, tomorrow morning it's just not working as we expected, and you're like, what's going on? Without any announcement. Shade the licensing. One of the biggest problems for this Anthropic AI was when was building a product on top of their system, but people didn't check the license as if your product is interfere with the business, with any business development of the Anthropic by itself, they can cut out the access from your service. So, because they be able to grab your statistics of how your pipeline, if your product is valuable, how it works. After that, to build their own project and say like, hey, sorry, now you are my competitor. I'm not providing a service. We cannot do anything with that. And other aspects is difficult to predict the cost, because no one can understand what is it like token count, like input, output tokens, why they have a different prices, what is X5, rate limits, or so on. It's like very difficult to explain to someone like when you want to, how much you will use per person when you try to do the coding. For instance, if I'm using a cloud, it's average with through the API. It will be average like $31 per day. It's in a minimum scale if I'm focusing only on one project. But most of the time we working in parallel for several projects, so it will be about $3,000 USD per month, only per person, like it's in average. But it depends on how much it will scale. So it's really kind of became also very tricky to predict your cost when developing a product or you want to integrate AI implementation into some other systems. In that behavior, I pretty like the strategy of how the Chinese big labs did the AI, because their primary goal was to create a model, because the model is not representing the product. It's representing like an artifact, like what the whole system was speeded up. And they put it, okay, you can use it, download it, but not many people will be able to run like those frontier models with a big amount of the parameters. They just doesn't have the GPU raw power. But instead, you can rent in the cloud their hardware. For example, that's how Alibaba do it. You can rent their infrastructure and just deploy the model. This is beneficial in many cases because you just pay for the hardware and you don't care about the token count in that condition. Plus, you control the version of the model which is running, which is give you more predictability as your product which you developed won't break because the model was changing. For the companies who is just as, let's say, OpenAI and Anthropic, who's focusing on making the state-of-the-art models, for them it doesn't make real sense to keep old version of the model up and running because it's also cost and the number of users is shrinking. So in the end they're like, oh, okay, we'll just shake this swap and probably will know or something like that. That claim is based on observation of what many people are able to see online and also by having the live chat. So it's not enough just from that. In general, if we can compare what we mostly do, we can see like the most of the tasks for what we are using the LLMs currently can be covered with the local models. They will have some other aspects of the issues in comparison with the frontier models because, first of all, the local models, they doesn't have the infrastructure which is supporting that in comparison to the frontier model. For example, when you hit the request with the frontier model, you are not talking directly to the model by itself. You're talking to the infrastructure, which is extra, having extra prompt injection to it, extra like loop corrections. For example, if model starts looping, it's detecting in an API level, and after that they'd be able to prevent it. Because for them it doesn't make sense if the model starts looping on something and all other tasks won't be able to execute. So they have those kind of protection mechanisms which open source models which you download it, they just not present it. So you cannot have those stuff. Here is a little bit mistake because actually this TPT is also generated with the local AI. So yeah, nothing fancy. For illustrate, also the problem of the infrastructure I also can show as very popular. One of the very popular harness, which is called OpenCode. It's having the VAP statuses for some models, and for other local models, they doesn't have this VAP status for it. So you actually won't get the whole benefits of the good prompting of that particular harness when you're using your own model. That's why you can get more voice results when you're using harness than if you just directly prompted the model, hey, can you make me a website of something, and it's in one shot will be pretty decent output in comparison if you try to ask the same thing inside of the harness. Here's just an example. It's live from the GitHub currently of the source code visible. Yeah. So here we're having some default prompts which we're using. NA. Lately, like I think the day before yesterday, there was added a Kimi model, the prompt specifically for Kimi model. But before, if you are not Anthropic, if you are not Gemini, if you are not ChatGPT, you go to a default prompt. Yeah. So, don't forget I switched to. It's just kind of, and the prompt quality is way worse. Like if we're speaking about the default, it still doesn't provide you much instruction class. They're also having the mechanism.
Kind of weird that you're talking about local AI, but even running VS Code in the cloud.
Yeah. And most of them, I checked the client, the extension for VS Code. Seems like they're more consistent about it. They have only one type of code.
I'm saying you are running VS Code in the cloud, even so you are talking about local AI, right?
No. This one is just GitHub. It's not VS Code. It's a GitHub. If you in a GitHub URL at github.dev.
Yes, but why are you running this? No.
Just for showing, because I'm not planning to apply any changes to that particular code, and I just for live illustration. If it makes sense to you?
No, that's why I'm pointing it out.
Yeah, I'm just telling you why I'm not using that particular thing for on local, because I'm not willing to apply any changes to this.
Yeah, but you need to show it in the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
You need to show it. You plan to show it in the presentation. I try to keep the things that I need to show locally.
So
even though I don't contribute, I need to use it, so I keep it locally.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So this is just what's going to happen online, and everyone be able to see that aspects. Other aspects when you're using local models will be related to the mistarget of the knowledge. So, for example, if you're having the general representation, probably you can explain more about it because you're more familiar with the machine learning and how the vector data is represented inside of LLMs. But I think that representation is good enough to visualize it. So when we giving a query to the model, it's kind of tracing the data in a sequential way, like that. But in some cases, if we are not providing this one, say like, make me a just website, then in more complicated areas, for example, maybe not make a website, but let's say if you want to do the low-level optimization, for example, you want to keep in count the timing which is required for the type conversion through the inside of the memory. If you're speaking about a very high-performant software. So if you explicitly won't tell to the model to count on this, it will still do the work which will cover your task, but at the same time it will miss those aspects because the area for those aspects will be not directly connected. And in that way, we need to provide prompting. Inside the prompt, we need to explicitly say, hey, use that particular area for doing so. Other aspects, I think from the short presentation itself, like which is related to introduction material. Next, I want to switch to what is actually local model capable to do. I can show you the examples of the output of them. We also can do it like live representation purpose. For live representation, I would like to open the Z API. And let's say here, by default, we're having some sort of templates for 3D, for websites, for whatever. We can choose one of these templates and to see what the model will output for us. So, any preference, which one website you want?
3D.
Do they have free tier?
Huh?
Can I use it for free, like for certain tasks, or I need subscription?
Well, in general, you can do for create the general aspect, but it will struggle with the small details. Even the frontier models will struggle with the small details of the 3D because it's not able, it doesn't know the orientation in the space which is created. It can create the object, but most of the time it doesn't know the orientation in space.
Thanks.
And all of these, for example, website which is looking pretty good, they train from the actual existing project and it's just traverse. It's not creating something new. It's just have traverse knowledge about how this watch will looks like, and after that, when you ask him, it's just will make you exactly the same watch. And other aspects when you're using the local models, the watch can be not exactly during to quantization. So the model is smaller and it's lose the precision, for example, how the belt is loose for those aspects. But okay, let's do something in.
Is it like you mentioned about pre-training, right?
Yeah.
Is it like the real pre-training or it's more like a prompt engineering?
And pre-training and prompt engineering. Prompt engineering came after, is for catch up the relevant pieces of the information. But most of the time when you're speaking about that nice looking picture, which people post online, it's related to the pre-training of the model. Because all those images, like nice looking websites, they look exactly the same, and the people who is testing it, it's also looking the same. For example, even if you ask to create some 3D game, most of the time it looks like a Roblox, just because it's more, it's open source, sorry, Roblox, like Minecraft, because it's open sourced and is the code base it's already embedded into the model. Yes, it'll be able to make some adjustment, like add a car vision for those stuff, but it will be exactly the same code. So it won't be anything new. In my case, for running my personal models, I'm using the LM Studio. Only because the LM Studio is allows me to having a mesh devices connected without any other VPN. So for example, here I'm having several devices connected to my notebook, my desktop with the big GPU, like 24 gigabytes of the RAM in it, and my lab PC, which is having 2 GPUs on it, like pretty old one, but especially today installed 2 GPUs on it, so you'll also be able to see some cases which we had in chat about running model on a split of GPUs.
So where are these sitting? The top one is that?
It is at my home.
Okay. Here in China?
Yes.
Okay. Both of those, or is one of the laptops up here?
Laptop is here.
Oh, okay.
So at the same time, I also will be able to run those prompts in a parallel, even with the local model over here. So let's say this one, I push to run it inside at my home server. Next one. For instance, this one I want to run on my laptop just locally. So overall, you can see the speed of the generation of this. I'm using exactly the prompt what is represented inside of the GLM 5.2. It probably won't look exactly the same, but I don't know. From day to day, the result will be now I'm running these interference directly from my computer over here.
What's Quopus?
Quopus? It's a fine-tuned like Quen 3.6.
Fine-tune to mean like distilled from Opus?
Yes.
Yeah, sort of distill from Opus, but it's only give it a little bit less chatty. It's making it a little bit less chatty in general.
I mean, it's funny they're not even trying to hide it.
Yeah, we will return back to those because I think the models which is fighting about Jekyll it's having really decent results, and though only one nice thing, they adjusting the template so it's working pretty nice with the harnesses. Because by default, one of the biggest problems for the open source models, they already was capable since the Quen 2.5 to do the work. But the problem was incompatibility with the tool calling, for example. The Chinese models was trained for using XML data, like for the for communication, for be able to call a tool or to do thinking. It was wrapped in XML, but frontier models was using the JSON format, so they just on a format was incompatible before. But most of the tools which was made, in primary case, they was created for using these frontier models, just because not because they wanted to give better for the community, but in most of the cases because current situation, people just want to promote themselves or get a better job, better fees. So this is also keep in mind. Okay, seems like this one is finished. Yeah. Let's see what is the output. And output is something like this. Here is can be many factors depending, and if we compare with the original one, is the difference is pretty significant in this case. Here we're having some menu, but for this menu, nothing was saying in Chrome. It's only was saying about making the Chrome include. In general, if we want to compare, the scene is too dark, but actually it's matching one-to-one, like for this particular case. Let me also check what's going on with the look.
Just run the same from 2 more times.
Yeah,
Okay.
from one time. And keep in mind, this model is only 27 billion parameters.
Just run it 2 more times and compare the output.
Yeah. It's fine. And the similar prompt from 35 morning, like a mixture of the experts. Here is also we need to be very careful about the mixture of the experts and advanced models when we try to run locally. One of the biggest misunderstanding is mixture of these experts can run faster, but they made on a different architecture. For example, if you use the Gemma 426 mixture of the experts, you will never get a good result just because they're sliding window and they just start to lose the thing about what it was trying to make. So they will be good operation on a small context. Other aspect, it's the context size. For the local interference, you need to configure your environment to be able to run at least on, let's say, more than 64K tokens. If you have less than that, then you won't be able to do any decent coding. Because just files just won't be enough space for 50 files into the memory, so model will be able to operate. Before, if we compare like the ChatGPT 4, it's only had 8K tokens context window. If you compare now, you locally can run like up to 200, 250 something. This is what we get from the model. Yeah. The result, you still can use it. It's not means the result is more better, but most of the time the 3D area of like they will struggle with it. As other thing for, I want to show you.
Can you please just run it again? Give it a second try. Pause that.
Sure.
Just so
Here I don't have a document.
Yeah. They didn't take hours to run that.
The better result for them will be if we're using the flat UIs. On my case, it was basically almost identical to what the Java 2.5 RD. So let's switch a little bit about tools generating. Let's talk about the context window when we're using the local LLMs. So we need to consider about two types of context. One is for input, one is for output. Most of the models from one shot, they can output only 63K tokens on output. So you need to keep in mind, if you want to ask model to generate something big, it's only at 63K, it will just stop generating, like it's just a below abruption. So you will need to, again, to prompt him to ask them, hey, please continue from where you stop or from the file. It's not because the model is like forgetting or whatever, it's just it's having this type of limit. When we're using the frontier model, we're also having the same type of limit, but it's negotiated with the infrastructure. Because internally in API, it seems like it's supposed to generate more than 63K at once. And it's just like, okay, reprompting, and again, continuing with the, from where it's supposed to stop. So that's why you don't see the difference. But when you're using locally, no one doing it for you. You can, if you want to, you can implement it with your code, but in general, it's not. Also, the quantization of the in general context, like KV cache and so on. I won't recommend to go below 8K quantization. If you can keep it original, then will be the best, but then you will need also a very beefy GPU in terms of the VRAM. It doesn't matter, what I observed is it really doesn't matter how powerful is GPU. Yes, it will give you that, like, let's say for the difference between 2080 Ti and 5090, it's approximately like 40%, but it's like when we're speaking about 90 tokens per second of the generation and 130. There will be also a big difference. You will notice the big jump from, let's say, if your model generates 20 tokens or 40 tokens per second, then you will notice a big difference. But if your model is doing like constantly 60 tokens per second, you won't feel the difference about like what is outputted. And most of frontier model they outputting in 40 tokens per second when you play with it. So also keep in mind.
If anyone curious why, because throughput basically depends on memory speed, not on CPU speed.
So, well, that's cool for one user. If you're running like 64 requests with VLN, for example, then you will see the difference, right? Because you can run 64 times 40
Yeah, they can measure.
But keep in mind, like about the VLN, they're using a different structure. For do so, we need to also understand the distribution format.
It's not for one user, yeah, of course.
No. For example, currently it's very popular GGUF format for what we get used to.
Yeah.
And the representation of the GGUF format we can get from even from the Hugging faces, looks like that. So inside is embedded different type of areas of the model, but which is supposed to be run on only one single device. For that is perfectly good. But when we're speaking about production systems, most of the time we're having two-part split ups. For example, from processing, it goes on one bunch of the GPU, and the token generation goes to another bunch of GPU. So we have it like this split up. So when we're speaking about VLLM, it's also made for doing this split up, and this will get better benefit if you actually have, let's say, 2 GPUs instead of 1. With the
for processing.
yeah, because it's allowed like to have 2 pools of the processing different aspects. Most of the time, when you can feel the model is slow, it's when it's from processing. When you wait until it's like process what was before and before it starts to generate. But when it starts to generate, it's actually working pretty fast. Other aspects is the memory management. For example, most of the harnesses they just doing the memory compression is just they do it in a very dumb way, like take the chat history and make a summary from it, and after that, like reprompt it again is only that summary. This is very inefficient way, but why they do that is because of the limitation of the APIs and how the caching system are working for the frontier models. We cannot, from the user side, we cannot control how to store the cache on their servers. And because everyone trying to make their products for, like, let's say, software which will match or be able to use with the frontier models, it's a very bigger factor which is limiting us to create a proper memory management tool for the model. Even now, like, is it still possible we can get the binaries of the Llama CPP, let's say, and to apply custom adjustment for how the cache is supposed to be done. But it's not a fact as it will be integrated to the next release of the product. For example, there was already an attempt to make store cache on a disk like, from the Llama CPP, but people just, oh, okay, this is not a thing what we wanted to, so the contributor just have to play it by himself, and all latest features which they added to there is just not going on, so this also needs to be done. For better tuning, if you have, let's say, a smaller GPU, like 16 gigabytes of RAM or whatever, I strongly suggest you to use just Llama CPP in a row, because it will allow you to more gradually distribute the load of the model ranges between your system RAM and VRAM. And you still will be able to get pretty decent performance in some cases, like about 40 tokens per second. And it's pretty good enough for doing like, let's say, a Django coding in Django. And
your screen is going.
sorry? Yeah.
Be patient, my friend.
No, it's just till I'm talking, the laptop is just shutting down. So. Yeah, again, I apologize because I'm on a little bit on painkiller medication, so I'm a little bit fluffy. So if I'm drifting,
What happened?
no, I get hernia in my lower back, so already for a month. Today is the third day when I can walk.
Thank you for coming.
No, I also was interested because I'm tired today. Seriously, for those aspects. Okay,
Yes.
the model was regenerated, so we'll see what is happening.
Let's see what happens.
Another aspect about some parameters of the no defense. You know why? Now I show you why. So when we are speaking about the parameter, why the model is make exactly the same output as before? It's just because when we loading the model, here we're defining a C. It's let's say we can think about it as entrance point to the model from which it will start to produce a result.
Where's the temperature?
Temperature, default.
So even though with the same C, it should not exact an output.
If-
It's relatively high.
No, it will be exact. Most of the time it will be approximately exactly the same. If the seed will match. At least by my personal use cases, when I try to use, I notice in my case, giving the temperature is only make the aspects about the model be more creative, and sometimes can drag me to drift from the task what you say to do.
Yeah.
It can like, oh, maybe you want this like in a future case, but the difference on the result, the seed or what it's making.
It doesn't make a huge difference, of course, but I wouldn't expect it to be exactly the same. But because it's interesting to reprompt the same thing, if you have a result that you don't like, before you try to improve the prompt and do whatever other things to that result, or working with this result and ask the model to change it, just not yet. Right?
Another aspect of what needs to be addressed is the human psychology. Because most of the time, when people just trying to use the LLMs, they're trying to came out to this and prompting it as is the back thought about, hey, I want to see what this model are capable of. And when it's not, you start to argue with it, like about, hey, why you do it in some sort of way as you want it. But it's not the way for how the models work. You need to be more explicit, say exactly what you want from it. And the simplest way for you, if you want to create a landing page or whatever, don't come out with creating a landing page or something or whatever. Just ask model, make a user story for the landing page of what kind you want to make. After that, just copy this user story which LLM will generate, pass into like a new session, and ask model to create an HTML artifact or what technologies you want to use it, and then we'll get a very good result. For example,
So maybe 2 or 3-step prompt, right? Ask the model to give you a prompt that you can use. And then you get the idea of what the model did, and you can still fine-tune the prompt instead of coming up with all of that shit by yourself.
Yeah, but here you need to consider one aspect, like when you want to fine-tune the prompt, better to already switch to using the comments. Because you don't want the model to regenerate everything from straight. Better.
Of course, that's the next step.
So, yeah, let's a little bit watch on a few areas. So yeah, dense model in general is smarter, but it's slower, working slower because it's pushing more wages from it. Probably some people already know that stuff. For those who doesn't know, we can say, but the model of experts, they are more efficient. In some case, people can say because it's using more parameters than dense model, this can be smarter, but active parameters is actually way less. So the result will be at least for, let's say, 5–10% worse than from the dense model of the same family of the same generation in general. I think the LM experts can fix me on that, what I was noticed personally. Other aspects is the small models is also very good, but for the tasks as, let's say, research, find something in your bunch of files and to provide a summary, translation, image categorization, those kind of like a grounded-based tasks. If you want to model or produce some code or whatever, I strongly recommend to watch on 27 and upper billion parameters, because otherwise you won't get like so detailed thoughts or whatsoever. If the 12 billion parameters is already pretty good enough for system management, let's say if you want to make some CI/CD pipeline on your servers and you want to manage them, the 12 billion parameters is doing that pretty well. The higher density parameters models, they can do all of that stuff, but in most of the cases it doesn't make sense to use it. For example, for finding information from files, just because they will work a little bit slower than the lower dense parameters, and the less parameter model, they already can do it and can do it way faster. The generation speed will be just faster. Instead, I can encourage just to combine them all together and to use the smaller parameter model for like searching the web, categorize your files, and looking for your code base to give you some of this type of workload. Higher dense models I can recommend to use for actually the more creative tasks, like producing artifacts, coding, and like I'm not speaking about the coding of the code completion, I'm speaking about actually agentic coding for that. Because the code completion, even the, let's say, 9 billion parameter model can do with ease. If you just want to have like advanced auto completion for coding, this would be good enough. Yeah, most of the time when I'm using on my system is just 8-bit quant for candy cache, flash attention enable. I pretty like the new MTP, like mixed token prediction setup. It didn't have so big degradation over the quality, maybe like 1 or 2%. So it's pretty good.
It's not for the quality, it's for speeding up. A smaller model will
yeah,
predict
it is speeding up, but the quality degrades for a quarter like of the output. If you're trying to do the same pipeline to execute, the MCP model most of the time will require at least 1 prompt more for manage. This is my personal observation. I'm not saying like as this is not real or something. Yeah, I also wanted to show some 3D aspects which model was able to create.
Can you talk about some of the software you're using?
Yeah.
Are you using mostly VS Code?
I'm using VS Code and Z, but sadly, nowadays I cannot recommend any of the software to use because they became more cheapy. For the last 1.5 months, the quality of the software is dropped dramatically. For example, last week I was wanting to say like, hey people, you can use the open code. Now I cannot say that because after yesterday's release, somehow it started to load system. For example, when the task before I never heard my fan was spinning up, but now it's just like it seems like we embedded some infinity loop till the model is waiting, and so it's just start to CPU overheating. So that's why I cannot say it's good, but I'm still using it. I'm using it by 2 reasons. First of all, during my college time, I tired from the console-based like MS-DOS type of IDEs. So if Harness doesn't have a GUI, then it's not Harness for me. It's just my personal opinion, and I don't care about other people. If you like to use the console-based, you can use it. For me, it's completely fine. It's obviously, if that still works for you, then it's great. Yeah.
Is it, sorry, with VS Code, are you using the Continue plugin or?
Line, but VS Code I stopped using for a very long time. Honestly, I switched to Z. Even the latest changes I also don't really like, but the Z looks like that. It's worked way faster, and it's also can have the integration with other agentic agentic harnesses. For instance, here is integration with open code. I also can choose the models, and I also can choose the sub-agents which I created by myself, like inside of it.
Is it Linux, Mac, PC?
Both.
So when you mention about getting extra token when we tune the GPU memory and all that stuff, does this apply to M architecture or in a unified memory? Do we need to do any tuning?
When we speak about the architecture of the unified memory and the standard x64 PCs, then not exactly. This is part is how the memory is shared between how the wages will be loaded and how the buffer will be allocated inside of this memory for be able to store the information which is passed. This is memory. It's it's kind of different than the memory when we're speaking about the token window. Token window is a memory which is already at runtime already. So if you don't have enough VRAM, this runtime memory you just won't be able to fit, so you will need to shrink it down. Then smaller amount of context window you have, then less you'll be able to work on bigger projects, let's say. Then bigger you have, it will allow you to, let's say, research a bug inside of your code, or to do some other things like I cannot come out from my head, but we can think about it. I told you, like, I'm a bit fluffy, so. I still want to show you that you can see, but it seems like it's just missing a little bit. But I can show you others. For instance, let's say this type of representations is can generate on this. This is also was generated with the local model.
Oh, I have a small question. Can you please return to that diagram? How was it generated? Like, what is the level of details you had to provide to make it that precise? And how well it was representing your initial intent?
It's painful on aerial and even on frontier model to make them really precise.
Yeah, so how did you do it? Because, like, for a split second, it looked really good. What did you use for it?
For doing just guiding. Just guiding.
Ah, okay.
Just like sequential guiding for it. For example, it's created it's created a general plan with defined styles. The most complicated thing it will be to arrange the arrows connections. You need to specify aspect as when arrows interleave, you need to have at least like 2 pixel gap between it from left and right side. So they will be like, lines won't go like this, but they will stay in a parallel. After that, the problem is when the arrow pointing from top or from bottom, you need to be precise, describe it like the connection arrow from this element is supposed to be pointing to the left side of the box to which it's want to go. So in this case, it's going to make it correct. Otherwise, not really.
I remember Canva has MCP. Have you tried it?
Sorry?
Canva, the app for design, yeah, it has MCP. Have you tried to connect to it and use it somehow?
No, I didn't.
Canva have an API?
Yeah. No, I haven't used the Canvas one, but I used the how do you call it? Penpot.
I never heard of it.
It's open source tool similar to Figma.
Isn't it a pencil?
Sorry?
Not a pencil, but pen pad?
Penpot.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cannot load the 3D scene, something like this on the internet. They just need to load it. Yes, I want to show like some 3D scene related, but I can see the file from the end is just being fetched. But in general, this is a one-shot dashboard from the user story about which I did for Shenzhen University. We like have the project for investigate possibility to integrate high technology into the education system like VRs and so on. And during the time, I also prototyped very fast like applications, so we'd be able to use like the models which student prepared and to load it into the system, and they'll be able to directly use the VR headset or check it in model in virtual environment. And that is how the dashboard was looking, but here in center is a 3D scene, but I cannot show you because it's just included. The file from of the Babylon.js 3D engine is just didn't fetch. So yeah, you really can do, for example, yeah, nice. So for example, this is like a demo scene and all other like subpages. All of this was done with the local AI in one shot. So you also can try it out, but again, I told you like my recipe was just to write down what I want to make, and after that, based on my writing, create the user story for the application. And I only uploaded the user story to the prompt during the creation. I didn't upload the whole thing, like which is related to the whole bunch of functionality, because one thing what I noticed, the model started struggling where you try to point them out to the details. If they try to go out of their template, which they have in, which is pre-coded into their brain, then they start to struggle, and then you need to go to the granular changes. In other aspects, like, again, nowadays I can recommend models like Plan 3.6 and most of the siblings, like fine-tuned versions. Fine-tuned versions, they probably work better than just Plan 3.6 on harnesses, just because they have a better template adjustment, which is better prepared for working with the tool calling and other like skills and all these operations of the harness. Then the raw 3.6 cloud output in general will be pretty much the same. Again, like a couple of days ago, I also used that model for the low-level operation, like to parse 3D model files for the Blender plugin, which is kind of, didn't know the format at all. I just throw it out, let's see what we can, parse it out, and I was able to convert like about 800 models from one format to another. Autonomously, I was like, oh, that's nice. So I really think, my really personal opinion, the local models is getting way better than it was before, and we really can use it even for product coding. Only one area of what is lacking. If you want to do the parallel execution, you will need several setups of it. You won't be able to do it on one machine. Even inside of the tooling, you'll be able to see the parallel execution, but it's not of that level. For example, these parameters, which is related for how many parallel requests the model can process. Then you add more parallel requests, then the speed of generation for one request will drop like on a half, basically. And it will become slower and slower, so the linear execution will be more beneficial when you use the local setup. Well, again, local setup means in a current talk, it means like laptop or your home PC. I'm not speaking about the local cloud with the several beefy GPUs to be able to include on there. And other aspects about the configuration, for example, if you're using the AMD GPU, I recommend you to switch to the Vulkan API, not use ROCm. ROCm is about, on my personal test, it's about 30% slower than Vulkan in terms of the speed of the token generation. So that's why the Vulkan here somehow is beneficial.
Less stable.
It's more stable. Well, question. The most stable is really still NVIDIA overall. They not having some memory issues or whatsoever. Yeah, very important thing. When you load the model, don't forget to try to switch off the M9. It will allocate less memory and will push less tension in your system when you are working on it. If you use the raw Llama CPP, it will allow you to have more granular control over the memory. So, for example, it will allow you to specify the parameter for not allowed to other processes of the system to reallocate the empty blocks of memory in your RAM, and it will keep it just for the loading of your context, then you will get less issues on that. In general, as I mentioned before, for me personally, I use the LM Studio because it's allowed mesh like linking of the different servers through my network, and it's also can work headless. Same like a server, you can install on a Linux server and Windows. My advice also, if you wanna install your personal server for this, do it on Linux. Don't try to install it on Windows and just plug and play the GPU or whatever. The reason for that is Windows is even in an idle is supply at least 600 megabytes of VRAM for system being able to work. But on Linux you can offload the full the GPU VRAM with a Linux will work completely fine, which is not the case with Windows. I think it's it because I already spent like about an hour. I was thinking like to do something like for 20 minutes, and after that to open like a free discussion between everyone else. But the topic is really